You know, I'm so glad we're live today because there is so much going on today. Not only candidates crisscrossing the country, particularly those 5 states up for grabs on Tuesday, but even states supposedly already settled. Kentucky Republicans, for example, are picking delegates going to the GOP convention in July. The state's governor may be one of them. He's joining us on the phone right now, Matt Bevin, the governor of the fine state of Kentucky. Governor, good to have you.
Hey, good to be on with you, Neil.
You know, Donald Trump won the state. I'm just wondering whether in the end he will win the delegates. What do you think?
You know, it'll be interesting because in Kentucky, and I think it's the same in other states as well, it's very formulaic as to what happens with the delegates, specific for those that are still in the race. There is question as to those who are no longer in the race, who may have won delegates, and essentially how exactly those are up for grabs. But with respect to Donald Trump, with respect to Ted Cruz, with respect to John Kasich, if in fact they are still in the race at the time of the convention, the delegates they won in Kentucky will be to them in the first round of voting. That is just the way it is. In the second round is when it really gets interesting, and that's not just for Kentucky, but for many others as well. That's when it becomes truly open. You hear words like brokered and contested, but it's frankly then open, and the delegates who are there get to vote for what they believe is the appropriate candidate.
You also hear Donald Trump use the word rigged when he hears of this process. What do you think of that?
Anyone who truly is now shocked at the fact that it works this way has not really been paying much attention to the electoral process since its inception. There has never been in this country a process whereby it is a pure, straight-up Democratic majority. It just hasn't been. And there have always been folks that were outraged at that, but frankly, they're usually people who do not understand the intent of our founding fathers.
Maybe Donald Trump knows that process very, very well, and he's trying to make an issue of it, a populist issue, to say, yeah, even though I was caught off guard, I wasn't ready, I didn't have the troops there trying to line up these delegates. He's trying to make lemonade out of lemons, and many could argue he's succeeding. How do you answer that he has made this an issue, that this is a system in both parties? Because he's talked about the superdelegates for Democrats, Governor, saying that it's rigged against average voters. What do you say to that?
We heard a similar argument, if you remember, when Al Gore won the majority of the popular vote, but did not become president. And indeed, people were outraged at that time. People's senses of indignation were brought to the forefront, and they were worked up, and there were many topics of conversation like the one we're having about it. And then, like everything else, it faded away because the American people, sadly, are easily inflamed, and Donald Trump is wise. He is better than anyone at striking the chord of indignation in people. But at the end of the day, there is a level of apathy that sadly has crept so deeply into the American populace. That, more than anything else, is the danger to our American political system, is apathy.
You know, Governor, do you think that Mitch McConnell, though, Kentucky senator and Republican leader in the Senate, tipped his hand when he said in a local television interview that we're increasingly optimistic that there will be a second ballot? He said it was just a lighthearted remark or something like that, but that obviously what he was telegraphing there is his preference for anyone but Donald Trump.
Well, I will be honest with you, though, Neil. Think about this. I don't think he's a huge fan of the guy who's in number 2 either.
Right, I thought the same thing.
So frankly, I don't know. You could interpret that comment to be any number of things. I think only he could speak as to what he meant.
But as a guy who likely will be a delegate, Governor, at the convention, and you hear the rules the way they are now, and I raised with the John Kasich earlier, he wouldn't be allowed on the ballot right now because he hasn't won 8 states, the requirements that Ted Cruz and Donald Trump meet. Now, they could change those rules, I guess. But it's very unlikely 70+% of the delegates there that are either already committed or supporting Mr. Trump and Mr. Cruz would change those rules. So it would only be those 2 guys going at it, right, in multiple ballots if need be.
I think when you and I last spoke, I indicated my thought that it would be exactly that you have 2 individuals who have shown, whether people love them, hate them, or otherwise, they are the only 2 who have been able to curry enough favor from among the general populace to win states and to win significant portions of support.
Well, Governor, what happens if after ballot after ballot after ballot, as the rules stand now, it's just those 2 guys, and try as each side might, they can't get the 1,237, then what do you suggest?
I don't think that'll happen. If you
Really?
remember back in the RNC with Michael Steele, if you remember when there was contention, there was ballots, there were people who said this will never come to fruition, and then ultimately there is within human nature an amazing sheep-like mentality. There just is. And there truly is, Neil, and you will see that people will start to fall in line. They will. In what line, I don't know. That will be determined. But people will ultimately, I am confident, come to a solution. Absolutely.
And you would support the Republican nominee no matter who he is?
There is no question whatsoever that anyone who has been running, including those who have a chance of winning and are still running, any one of them I would support hands down over Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders. There is absolutely no question.
Real quickly then, if you'll indulge me, Governor, Jeb Bush has already said he's not going to the convention. He said that some time ago. John McCain, the latest to say that. Speaker Paul Ryan is worried about the big party luminaries who aren't going to show up. What do you think?
I think it's a shame that we have an abdication potentially. I don't want to, there may be very good reasons why some of these folks can't be there. But to me, it is an abdication of responsibility and expectation of people who are purported to be leaders, would expect to be leaders, think of themselves as leaders and have historically been leaders, to abdicate at a time when leadership is needed more than ever, the willingness to stand up and be counted. There is so much of the emperor's new clothes at play in America today, and we need people, young and old alike, to point the fact that the emperor is naked. Whichever and whoever that emperor may be, we've got to have leadership like never before, and it would be a shame to have party leaders not there.
Governor Bevin, thank you for taking the time.